Well, one thing is pretty damn obvious. The markets have been hit a top. There's no doubt about it. I mean, yeah, they were retracting, then they went up to 18,000 again, but that's all artificial. The first quarter came in, the results as far as earnings, profitability, it sucks. In other words, the PE ratios that were already skewed before, the price earnings ratios, they're already skewed. They're even worse now. So I'll tell you right now, though, you're better off just not paying attention too much to a lot of this stuff because I don't know really what it does for people. I mean, a lot of it, I don't like putting out too many of these type of videos because it's all about giddy rumors and things, and I just like going over the financial stuff more in a fun way, but I also want to dispel a lot of the myths and garbage, disinformation, wrong paths people are taking. Some of the stuff is so damn obvious. It's I don't know. It just gets me sick to my stomach that people are buying into some of this garbage from some of these conspiracy clowns left and right. Um, Now, as far as like what the banksters are doing, the banksters, if you want to call them that, the 1% and the 1%, it's no doubt that, well, we call it the one base, I call it the one basis point, the 1% of 1%. It's no doubt that the top elite or the people with the most money in this country usually are connected to the banking and financial system. The reason they're connected to that because it's a rigged casino. It's what Andrew Jackson on the $20 bill fought against. And it wasn't perfect, but there's a lot of different things that could be said about Andrew Jackson. And actually, I'm going to get onto something with that right now because, Tubman been on that bill. They ought to have her picture like this with the regular six-shooter revolver and her going after the banksters. Because I can guarantee you one thing, when the politically correct Jack Lew puts this on here. He puts it on here because she was a slave fighting against slavery. Yeah, fine, but really what she was fighting against was the elite owners. And you know who the elite owners are today? The bankers. We got the global plantation coming up right now. It's a rigged system. And today, if she was alive, the one she'd be fighting against today would be the banksters. And she'd be using her six-shooter. That's no doubt about it. Now, I'm going to comment on some other things, too, because there's a lot of garbage going on around on the airwaves. I know Alex Jones is, he's got a lot of good stuff on there, but he's like basically a disinformation guy. I'm going to tell you something real briefly, too, even about American history in itself. If we look all the way back, okay, the war is 1776, but, we really didn't break away from the British until 1812. A lot of that war became about because they were taking American sailors and forcing them to be on British ships. Part of it was the reason. But we really didn't break away from Britain until some decades later in the War of 1812. Then we had the problem with Nicholas Biddle trying to establish the central bank of the United States and Andrew Jackson fighting it, right? Then we had the Civil War, the war between states. Then we had, the Transcontinental Railroad and all the corruption that went on when that thing was being done. We had the stealing of the land from the Indians and the Indian Wars and all the deaths and thousands of deaths that occurred from Western movement. We had all the rowdy towns that were involved in around the silver and gold mining towns. I mean, this country's had a freaking whole million problems before, right? Could you imagine if we had a pile of Alex Joneses back then? With a bunch of giddy minds freaking go, what's Alex Jones saying? Nothing would ever get done, right? For crying out loud. If you're focused in on all that, then it comes up to a commercial. Buy my shit. Yeah, okay, buddy. But anyway, you just got to stick with the real. Like old chick over here, she's not listening to Alex Jones, man. She's sitting on her hog and she's getting ready to go for a ride. That's what it is. Now, I want to tell you a little more about the banksters, too. Satan ain't hating, that's the bankster's phrase, right? But, Harriet Tubman, she would have hated him, right? Big time. Now, I want to tell you something also about Andrew Jackson. Because you know what? The Civil War, or the war between the states, is really when the United States took a turning point. And this guy, Abe Lincoln, was basically a freaking bankster representative in the White House. There's no doubt about it. He passed the income tax, the direct tax on income. And And you know what happened with that? They declared it unconstitutional. At the time, the judges were going by the Constitution and weren't packed by communist people like Obama. And we had to have to pass the 16th Amendment later in 1913 to make it as an amendment to the Constitution that we can have a direct taxation on income. Well, it was unconstitutional before. And, when Abe Lincoln, that was one of the things he did. But just to give you a little insight, too, because, a lot of this crap that's going on today, they're fomenting these different groups in the United States that people belong to. It's the different classes, different sections, different races, different religions, and there's anti-religion, there's pro-religion, pro-abortion, anti-abortion, all this crap. And all this stuff is like designed, none of that stuff has anything to do with government, right? This is what the Satanists do. Satan ain't hating, but really it is hating. I'll tell you that right now. What they're really doing is they're playing games with people left and right. I also want to bring up something about Andrew Jackson because, they always said that the South seceded over slavery, right? And they said Andrew Jackson, they don't want him on a $20 bill because he was this really bad mean slave owner. That's what they say. I don't know if he was or wasn't, but that's one of the reasons they're given, right? Well, you know what? Andrew Jackson, in 1828, the South Carolina almost seceded from the Union over the Tariff of Abominations, which was passed by the North, which was designed to extract money out of the South and shore up northern industries with building infrastructure like canals and things like that to help out, trade between, goods coming in from the western territories and going into, the northern industries. So that was part of the thing. Now, you know what Andrew Jackson said to South Carolina about seceding from the Union over the Tariff of Abominations in 1828? He says he was going to go down there and hang every single one of the secessionists. Now, that was Andrew Jackson, the guy that was supposedly the big slave owner. Wait a minute. I thought secession was over slavery. No, it wasn't. It was over taxes. And, see, that's part of the freaking game that's going on with a lot of stuff in our rewritten history. Because when they don't tell you what the freaking real deal is, they're basically misguiding you into the future and giving you bad solutions. And I'm going to tell you some more crap they're coming up with for bad solutions, which is something else the wealthy are doing. Also I want to mention, too, we probably are going to start getting into actual consumer price inflation now a little bit, maybe. I think it's not necessarily related to Federal Reserve policy, but to other things that are coming about in nature. What I'm showing here is we got a Harley Shovelhead and a Rolls Royce, a Harley Shovelhead custom chopper and a Rolls Royce. Where there has been inflation for the Federal Reserve policy is through asset price inflation, which has been the stock market, artwork, high ticket items that are collector, classic cars, classic bikes, jewelry, and things like antique furniture and stuff like that. There's been a lot of investor class asset price inflation. That's where actually the inflation went from all the Federal Reserve stimulus in the past. I don't know where it's going to go from now. To me, I think it's going to actually start going into consumer price inflation. Now, one thing I also want to tell you about misleading, look at the Koch brothers with the Tea Party. Now, that's become very obvious because the Koch brothers now have talked about they'd rather have Hillary Clinton as president than any of the nominations, any of the people that are running in the primary on the Republican side. These are the guys that supposedly fund the Tea Party with Ted Cruz. Now, doesn't that tell you exactly what the freaking elite's game plan is? They actually fund the things you think. Well, the Tea Party's concepts are right, but what they're doing is they're not actually sticking with the real deal. For instance, like Ted Cruz, he could be Tea Party talking about the Constitution and all that kind of garbage. But once we sell out and once we're part of the NAFTA or the Trans-Pacific Partnership or global government and we're taxed by a global carbon tax, all the things that we have in the Constitution aren't going to be matter because it's not it's what it's going to be is the global governance is going to take precedence over anything that's in the Constitution. That's how we're being tricked. And people like Karen Huds, I think her name is. That's another one. She's supposed to be some kind of like, we used to work for the IMF or some crap like that. She's telling you like everything's been sunk since 1865. We basically were taken over by England. In European interests in European banks. I know a lot of that's true because the war between the states was really egged on because I know somebody mentioned this. They pointed to somebody's remark someplace on a blog about, but I knew this. War is to get nations in debt, and then what happens is the banks own the freaking government and the people are paying for the freaking war for the next generations. That's partly why even the war between the states was helped along by certain European powers. There's people the common people suffer a great deal in war. Everybody that's like an average person, but then there's certain people that make out a lot of money, which is the banks, the military-industrial complex like Eisenhower talked about, and everything like that. But in the meantime, I can tell you right now, a lot of times people that are in the Wall Street, I can tell you right now, there's a big culling going on in Wall Street. Oh, they're cutting all kinds of people. Bank of America's been cutting people. HSBC's been cutting people. And you heard about what happened to Hewlett Packard with Carly and all that kind of crap, cutting people left and right. A lot of these big corporations, Goldman Sachs has been cutting people, Morgan Stanley's cutting people. As a matter of fact, they're moving out of New York and going global, opening up offices all across the world. Even some of the offices that were going to be in New York were in New York City. Some are going to be not all outside the USA. Some are going to be in Nashville, Tennessee. But a lot of the people that are the top banksters, they also have land and property way out in rural communities with mega acreage away from all the crap. Because when they know when it's going to go down, they're going to be out of the cities and they're going to be gone. Now, it's kind of a narrow path these guys are taking because I don't think they're going to be 100% safe no matter what the hell they do. That's what's funny about it, too. As long as people recognize who the real enemy is, it's not us. It's not us. But, avoiding some of the giddy rumors is freaking very important. Now, I also talked about, the real economy is really bad because of, first off, you can see retail sales have been getting worse and worse every year. Now, recently, the GDE, what the hell you call that? The primary manufacturing index, that's been horrible in the United States. I think it was the worst it was in 7 years. First quarter returns were horrible in the United States. Retail sales were horrible. Also, I talked about this before, which was the railroads in the United States transporting goods. Very little transporting of goods. There's laying off of railroad conductors, which means there's a lot less retail goods being moved on rail tracks throughout the United States. And I'm going to tell you something. I don't buy anything. I try not to buy anything out of box stores, big box stores. As a matter of fact, I'm not even buying stuff on Amazon anymore. That was kind of like, now I think they're bullshit. I used to like them pretty good. Now I go on eBay, and it's not so much that I like eBay per se, but it's like I like buying stuff from smaller vendors. Or I don't even go on eBay. I just Google something and I look for a small vendor that's selling something independently through Google, and I skip all the big shot bull crap because I realize even Amazon, it's just nothing but a big damn corporation. It's going to be the new Walmart of the future. The hell with them too, right? But I realized that the big place that's going to be a big danger area in the United States is going to be the major cities because of what's going to happen for food supply. Because what's happening in the future is we are not going into global warming. We're going into a mini ice age. Now, Al Gore, I saw somebody posted a link on something. I didn't approve the link yet or some crap. Every time there's a comment made with a link, and even the comments, I don't even realize this. Sometimes comments that aren't even links, don't even have a link, they get put in spam, and I didn't even think they were in spam. And I'm like, and then I see it like a month later or 2 months later. I'm like, I can't even keep up with all this shit. You know what I mean? But then there's people that are just freaking, I don't know. There's other people out there on the internet that are spamming. They are like, earn money doing this and whatever the hell it is. They're freaking putting links. I mean, there's so much shit going on my channel. Like I can't even keep up with it. But a lot of times stuff goes into spam. I don't even realize it's going into spam. It's like I can't even keep up with all this crap. But the thing is, somebody put a link on there about Al Gore talking about an American Revolution. Do not trust Al Gore, for crying out loud. I was thinking, oh man, that is so ludicrous. Um, Al Gore is a freaking piece of crap from day one. I mean, yeah, he got the election stole from, but he's crap, and George Bush is crap. You had crap for running against crap. Okay, they're always telling you about this global warming stuff because they show an iceberg with some ice cracking off in the ocean. Well, you know what? Icebergs do this whether it's getting colder or warmer. If it gets colder, the ice expands. The ice expands, expands, expands. The ice goes over the water, because it's expanding. It runs out of land to expand on. Goes over the water. There's nothing under it to support it, and it cracks and falls in the freaking water. I mean, icebergs do this shit whether it's warming or cooling. It doesn't mean crap. That's not proof of anything. But if we actually had global warming, the only thing would happen is there'd be a lot of women wearing bikinis, and we'd have a lot more farmland. We'd have a lot more food production, and one of the biggest problems we're going to have in the future, I think, is the fact that we're really going into a mini ice age due to the lack of sunspots, which is a major indicator of what's coming up in the future. We're actually going to lead. It's going to lead to global starvation, man. I mean, there's already freaking global starvation going on right now. It's just that it's not apparent in the United States, Canada, Australia, Japan, and the Western European nations, and Russia and China. It's in a lot of other parts of the world. It is, but with 7 billion people, and if we have a much shorter growing season due to like frost coming earlier in a growing season, and the ground being frozen longer, where you have to wait to plant the crops. Well, you know what? You can hang it up, man. You can hang it up. Global warming would be a good damn thing, actually. It just means it would be very good for the human population. It would be. I mean, some of the cities one might have to relocate, or they might have to put dams around them, or some crap like they do in the Netherlands, and dikes and stuff and whatever. They might have to do something like that. But you know, overall, it'd be way better if we had global warming. Global cooling is going to screw us up. There's no doubt about it. This Al Gore is the biggest liar in a half. He's the guy that's been pushing for the freaking global carbon tax because there's global warming. And green in CO2. He says CO2 drives temperatures. No, temperatures drive CO2. It's the other way around. There is a link between CO2 and temperatures, but when temperatures go up, CO2 goes up because there's more plant life. Ugh. You know what? There's going to be a lot more freaking skin showing, and there's going to be a lot more freaking bikinis out there, too. Besides freaking a longer growing season. It's actually going to be much more healthy for the freaking human race, if we have global warming. Al Gore is the biggest liar and a half. They were linking up this crap because they wanted to tax humanity through a global carbon tax, and because of global warming. Well, Al Gore right now is calling for an American Revolution. That's BS. You don't want an American Revolution. You know what the problem is? The problem is this: what the hell is it? The Constitution is not wrong. There's nothing wrong. We don't need a revolution and a new Constitution. The real thing with the Constitution, more than anything, is the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights has always been there. The problem is everybody ignores it. Not everybody, but all the people in the robes, and they're a bunch of faggots in robes. I mean, half of these people are a bunch of freaks, man. They're all screwed up. These politicians are all a bunch of yo-yos. Abe Lincoln was gay. He's another one too. If you ever you can find that information on YouTube. He used to sleep with men. The guy was psycho freak from day one all the way around. And the thing is with the people that are in charge right now, they tell you the Bill of Rights means this, the Bill of Rights means that. anybody with a fourth grade reading education can understand what the hell the Bill of Rights means. You know, the right to freedom of speech, the right to freedom of religion. Doesn't mean, you know, prohibit religion everywhere. It means you got the right to freedom of religion, but doesn't mean the government establishes a religion. It doesn't. It means the government stays the hell out of everything. Thing. But right now, the government is actually violating the Bill of Rights left and right, all over the place. There's no doubt about it. And you know, even look at the thing with the Second Amendment. With the Second Amendment, it says the right to bear arms. You know, the way I look at it right now, when we got now, and I can tell you right now, even in the military, from what I've seen, I don't. You know, they're talking about right now with women in combat and all this kind of crap like that. Um, that is, you know what? Women in the military is just screwed up. Period. Even in the other MOSs, I seen so much shit in there that was like it was a joke and a half. You know, 18-year-old blonde comes in there and she's screwing some 45-year-old master gunny, so she can get ahead, so she can go home early at 1300 every day, you know, and get away with all kinds of shit. You know, that's what was going on. They weren't getting harassed. They were using their freaking, you know, their sexual charms to get ahead. That's what's going on left and right. It's a joke and a half, man. It's a joke and a half. They don't belong in most of these MOSs, to tell you the truth. And, you know, and they're telling you that, you know, the Second Amendment, I look at it like this. The Second Amendment means the American people are the militias, are the defense of the nation. There's so much fraud, waste, and abuse goes on in the military, it's a joke and a half. And that's where most of your tax money goes to. You know, and that's actually the legitimate part of your tax money. But even that, a lot of that is just fraud, waste, and abuse to the max. And when you got a bunch of people in green uniforms saying, you know, bending over backwards to freaking say, oh, these women will pass these combat roles, well, who needs them, man? Because I can tell you right now, those are the type of people, the only reason they're in there is for pay and bennies and retirement. That's all. They don't care. So, you know who owns the freaking military? The banks. The banks. The money people. You know, who owns the NGOs? The money people, the non-governmental organizations, the think tanks. You know, who owns the media? The banks. You know, that's why when you got a person like Al Gore calling for an American Revolution, you better freaking watch out, because you're going to use that as an excuse to freaking throw out the Constitution. You think things are bad right now when you got a Constitution. Imagine if you don't have a Constitution. You know, it's like they got to take right now, you know, the people in the black robes in the Supreme Court, except for Justice Scalia, who was murdered. But, you know, right now, if you got to look at what's going on right now, what would happen if you didn't even have a Constitution? They can tell you any damn thing. You know, if you don't have if they can go in your house and inspect your house, and if you don't have a picture of Obama up there with a lighted candle, and you pray in front of him every day, you know, they can freaking throw you in the gulag, right? Like they used to do in other countries, right? They could do that if you didn't have a Constitution. That's what they would do. So, I mean, you know, that's why I don't like putting out too many of these videos, because most people that are attracted to these type of videos are attracted to giddy rumors, and it's a bunch of bullshit. You don't need it. It's like, you know, whatever you got to do, you got to do. Silver's not the whole answer to every damn thing. You know, if I was on a deserted island, like say I was on a deserted island and I was like, this is deserted island, old baby her with the, you know, the whatever the hell she's riding, a Triumph or some shit, British twin. You know, I mean, I look at it like, would I want shiny silver coins, or would I rather have a bunch of coconut trees and a running freshwater stream and a fishing pole and maybe some Super M80s and bread to go, you know, lure in the fish and blow them up and scoop them up with a net or something in a way to make fire, you know, to cook them, right? I think I'd rather have that stuff than I have silver, right? That's why, like, you know, I look at this stuff. A lot of times people are probably looking back. You know, and I think what's going to happen is, I'm going to tell you honestly, if it gets really bad, and it probably will, because it's not going to get really bad within 2 years, but probably within 10 years. They could do the globalists, because the globalists are pretty much the same kind of mindset as the people that run in this country before, that stole the property from the American Indians, you know, the Cheyenne, the Lakota, the Sioux, the Cherokee, the Seminole Indians, whatever. There's a whole pile of them out there. Um, they stole the land from all of them. They could do the same thing to us, except on a global policy. Except it won't be, we'll be the new American natives, right? The people that are Caucasian, Black, Oriental, or whatever the hell we are, right? We'll be the new American natives, and they'll say to other people in other parts of the world, well, since the United States is broke, this is the only way we can pay you back. All that stuff that's down here is now yours. You take it. What are you gonna do about it? Huh? Nothing, right? You gonna do show them a shiny silver coin? Have fun, buddy. Have fun. Al Gore's not to be trusted, man. I don't care about that kind of thing. Actually, if there was an American Revolution, I'd be like saying, I'd be calling out these jackasses with the freaking global warming bullshit because, they're trying to make it illegal for me to say global warming's bullshit. But I'm going to tell you right now, the facts are the facts. Global warming is total freaking bullshit, and it's going to be right in your face by this next winter. It's going to be obvious. In the winter after, it's going to be more obvious. In the winter after, it's going to be more obvious. And by the time 2020, nobody's going to believe in freaking global warming. Nobody. Except people out in California, because that might be a localized area that's going to be hot and dry. But across most of the world, it's going to be a hell of a lot colder. So, this video actually is not so much more about silver, because you can see what the hell's going on. It's starting to get life, right? I mean, I don't know if it's going to hit $50 by June like some people were predicting. I didn't believe that shit. But what I'm telling you is, don't bet your everything on that freaking damn shiny silver coins, because you're going to need more than that. We're going into uncertain times. And, the only thing that really counts is really like, well, it's like beans, bacon, and bullets, and food, fire, power, and fuel. It's like food, clothing, shelter, that type of stuff. That counts first. That counts first. Silver's like a sideline. That's really what the hell it is. It should not be the be-all emphasis, be-all, end-all emphasis of everything you do. Because people are doing that. They figure they're going to sit on their ass and just ride this into, like, La La Land, like, and get wealthy and do nothing. I don't think that's going to be that way. And I don't think even the wealthy got everything figured out. Because, it's pretty obvious. A lot of the wealthy haven't figured out. Well, we'll see what happens on this next election. I don't know if there's going to be a lot of cheating going on with Hilda Beast. It looks like Hilda Beast versus Trump, possibly, but I don't know what's going to happen with that. I think in reality, the popular vote is going to go to Trump, but who knows what the computer's going to do. But, when I'm looking at like what's going on here in the future, it looks like when people are really thinking, the people on the top, the regular common people are really thinking, the people on the top really don't have them over a barrel. But our biggest danger is a lot of these disinformation people that are giving you truth, but they're kind of steering you the wrong way, too. Like Alex Jones doesn't really give you solutions. He tells you what's wrong. He says all this stuff, then he puts a commercial on the end of it. But he doesn't really tell you what to do. Not really too much, not too much. Somebody like Karen Hudds, whatever her name is, she'll tell you, the United States has been destroyed under the control of the banksters since 1865. Maybe that's true, more or less, but not exactly. Not exactly. I mean, the United States has always had problems. Always. If we had all these fearmongers back in the late 1860s, when people going west, nobody would have went west. We had all these fearmongers when they're trying to build the Transcontinental Railroad, they wouldn't have built it. If we had all these fearmongers back when the American Revolution was going on, it would have stopped. It would have never happened. And that's why I don't like a lot of these jerks, man. I tell you the truth, I don't like a lot of them. I already could see what's going on with a lot of things, but I always suspected these Koch brothers, man, big time. That was one thing I didn't like about Ted Cruz. I was wondering how the hell is he's getting funded by these jerks. And Ted Cruz became obvious what he's about, man. He's a total Trojan horse. Total. But Maybe what there's going to be is a lot of civil disobedience in the future. Maybe that's what's going to happen, and I think they're preparing for this too. But you got to be smart, man. You got to be smart in how you go about things. Just running out there in the middle of the street and first off, that doesn't do anything. It just makes you a big fat target. You know. Thing is, there's a lot of ways you could screw them up, and sometimes you can actually destroy them with kindness too. There's a lot of ways you could do that too, because some of these people out there, you can notice that even Hillary Clinton, well, she's stupid though. I can tell you that right now. She blows her cool left and right. I'm gonna really laugh if Donald Trump is sincere. Um, if we had and he gets on the nomination, I can imagine if he's sincere, it's gonna be pretty easy to tweak the hell out of her and watch her freaking just implode. Implode. But you know what I think is going to happen if Donald Trump gets a nomination and say he gets elected presidency? We are going to have a total collapse in the American economy on purpose. Total. Total. And that's not going to be a pretty picture. And I know silver is like one of the things you want to have, but it's not the only thing you want to have. Okay? Just want to keep that in mind, so watch out for the bullshit. That's why I'm concentrating on a lot of other videos. Recently I've been doing a lot more gun videos and stuff, but I'm going to get back into doing more health videos and stuff too like that, because I think that's very, very important. But you do want to have a gun because a lot of people aren't farmers, and if you can hunt and get a large animal and put it in a deep freeze, after you get all the meat and stuff, you can get yourself 90 pounds of meat from like a deer, and that can last you a long ass time, man. That can last you a very long time. So you will appreciate that more than silver. I can tell you that right now too.